All right, so let's do a screen share. Well, I'd just like to welcome everybody. Thank you. And for those of you that were brave enough to turn on your cameras, I do appreciate it. As you can see, I'm wearing a little chemo cap. So every Thursday I have chemo, but chemo day is usually a good day for me. So tomorrow I'll be exhausted. So I've got the energy today. So here we are. The lesson that I'm going to teach today is on parallelism. And as Dr. Marquette just said, try saying that 3 times real fast. It's a mouthful. So let's just go through this. Feel free to take notes. Most of the time, I'll do questions at the end, but if there's something super important in between, you can unmute and ask a question if need be. So parallelism, oh, there, I just messed it up. Parallelism in writing. This is when we have the same grammatical form with 2 or more similar ideas. We see this a lot when we write something in a series, meaning we have a little phrase, a comma, another phrase, a comma, and then maybe we end it with and then one more phrase. So this is where parallelism shows up. So easy ways to think about parallelism, like a double line on the roadway, the geometry lines, even like the spines on a bookshelf, railroad tracks, crosswalk. The thing that they have in common is that the lines are running parallel. They do not crisscross and intersect. So in writing, similar concept. So what's the purpose of parallelism? 1, it creates a common level of importance between ideas. 2, it emphasizes similar ideas in a sentence. 3, it helps to make the sentence concise. And 4, it promotes readability. Now, if I were to take all 4 of these points and put them into a sentence, it would look like this. If I were to put them into a sentence that actually is demonstrating correct parallelism, it would look like this. Parallelism in writing creates a common level of importance between ideas, emphasizes similar ideas in a sentence, makes the sentence concise, and promotes readability. And what I did is I changed the S to red in each of these. So this is showing the parallelism. So the verbs all end with the same letter. Now, this is generally true on occasion because, you know, the English language always has some kind of exception here or there. But generally speaking, this is how you can tell if your sentence is in correct parallelism grammatical form. Now, we have some common mistakes, and that, of course, would be the flip side of this when the phrase or the words in that series are not in the same grammatical form. So, for example, this sentence says, research involves asking specific questions, collecting data, and the study of results to find important answers. So to me, this sentence kind of makes me wince or kind of cringe. Is there anybody that's willing to try to rewrite this sentence? So if you think you could do it, unmute yourself, and how would you write this sentence so that it would be in parallel format?
I'll give it a try.
Okay.
Research involves asking specific questions, collecting data, and studying the studying of results to find important answers.
Almost there. Yeah. So you just didn't need to have the word "the" in there. So research involves asking specific questions, collecting data, and studying the results to find important answers. That's perfect. So in this one, what we're seeing is that the grammatical form needed the ing. So what we had here is they put in the study of, and that's where the sentence started to go awry. All right, so let's just practice. This is just a time where we can unmute. So if I've got the word swimming, what are some words that could go on the next line using the same grammatical form? So again, just unmute and let's just kind of call out some answers.
Running.
Running, excellent.
Walking.
Walking, perfect, very good. What else? I didn't hear it.
Jumping.
Jumping, very good. Mhm.
Flying.
Flying, excellent. Now, we were all kind of going and suggesting things that were actually the similar idea, almost sounded like some kind of activity, like almost like a sports activity. But could we also say eating? Would that work?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Very good. Right. Because it has that same grammatical format. Fantastic.
It's a gerund format
Yes.
in writing.
So you can also use parallel structure when you compare contrast ideas. So in this sentence, a lot of times it helps to see it when it's not parallel, because then it does kind of make us wince a little bit. So this one is not in parallel structure. Going to the movies is more fun than to rent videos at home. So who thinks they could fix that one?
Renting videos at home.
It would be renting. Very, very good. Thank you. So it would be going to the movies is more fun than renting videos at home. So we needed to take out the word to and change the word rent to renting so it would match going. All righty. So here, when you write sentences in which there are articles, so our articles are a, an, and the, any preposition like on, in, with, above, below, against, or conjunctions, and those are our fanboys. And so for those of you that don't know the fanboys are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So if we have those words in the sentence, if they precede the equal ideas in a series, you just have to be consistent. And I'm going to show you some examples of how this can work. So what you can do is this. You can take that word and you can repeat it each time in the series, or you use it once before the first one, and it actually kind of implies that it's used in the next ones. So for example, we have this sentence. I need to move my screen. This book is useful for researching, for learning about empirical articles, and for understanding the fundamental methodologies required to write a dissertation. So in this sample, what I did is I repeated the word for before each phrase. But we could also just use it once, and it would look like this. This book is useful for researching, learning about empirical articles, and understanding the fundamental methodologies required to write a dissertation. Both of these are correct, and they're grammatically structured correctly. Just two different ways to do it. So how do we check it? We check it by going to each section of the series, and we can ask ourselves some questions. So if we had this sentence, in the research study, participants were carefully recruited, systematically interviewed, and thoroughly analyzed to ensure comprehensive data collection. So if I were to look at the first section, I took the words, in the research study, participants were carefully recruited. So we see that that repeated word is probably going to be were. However, it wasn't repeated. So in this one, it was just used in the beginning before the first idea. So we've got were, we've got our word that ends with the ly, and I can see that it also has a verb that ends with ed, so recruited. So if we look at the second part, it would say, in the research study, participants were, so it's implying that that first were transfers over, systematically interviewed. So this still matches, everything's still on target, it looks good. And in our last section, in the research study, participants were thoroughly analyzed to ensure comprehensive data collection. So the word were was just used the one time, and it's implied that it carries over for all of the other sections. We can see that each one has an ly word and an ED word. So this one is grammatically correct. So parallelism can have mistakes usually in our verb forms. So an incorrect one would look like this. In the research, participants were recruited, surveys administered, and analyzing data for comprehensive understanding. So we need to check it. I can tell it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't sound right. So in our first part, we have in the research, participants were recruited. So far, so good. In the research, surveys were administered. So we can kind of say, well, that were carries over and it still now fits. So that part looks good. But it's the third part that starts to get a little wonky. In the research, analyzing data for comprehensive understanding. So this is, we know that that's where the error is. So the correct way to do this would be to say, in the research, participants were recruited, surveys were administered, and data were analyzed for comprehensive understanding. And as a note, I know that a lot of times it sounds like we should say the word was, data was analyzed, but in research, we say data were analyzed. So just kind of make a little mental note of that. I know, believe it or not, that's correct. So just remember, you can, in this case, what we needed to do to fix it was repeat that preceding word or phrase before each idea. That was the way to fix this particular sentence. All right, so let's practice. So I'm going to give you some questions and we can put into the chat your ideas on whether or not the sentences I'm going to throw at you are parallel or not parallel. So if you want to, you can even abbreviate. If it's parallel, you can type in a P, and if it's not parallel, you can type in an NP. So our first sentence, she decided to leave her job and traveling the world. All right, I'm seeing all NPs. Ooh, you guys are such great learners. All right, you're correct. It is not parallel. Who wants to unmute and tell us how we would fix it?
She decided to leave her job and travel the world.
That would be correct. It's not parallel. Should be travel.
Present
Correct word.
tense.
Yep. She decided to leave her job and travel the world. Way to go. Number 2, back into the chat. He started the engine, released the handbrake, and checked the mirror. All right. Looks like we've all got the right answer. Yes, that one is parallel. All 3 parts of the sentence. The started engine, released the handbrake, checked the mirror. They're all verb phrases. And they follow the same structure. So it's just a verb in its past simple form plus a noun. All right, number 3. Some people think that being successful is the same thing as to have money. All right. Lots of not parallel. That's correct. You are correct. It is not parallel. Anybody want to try to fix this one?
Some people think that being successful is the same thing as to having money.
Not the word to. We want to take
Yes.
that one out. Try it again, Don Tressa.
People think that being successful is the same thing as having money.
There you go. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
As having money. So some people think that being successful is the same thing as having money. Wonderful. Excellent. Well done. Number 4. Did you decide not to come because you are tired or are you feeling sick? Mm. Okay, good. I'm seeing a lot of not parallel. You all are correct. Now, how would you fix this one? Think about what word you would want to maybe try to repeat.
Yeah, that would
Would we
work.
want to repeat because?
You would, Carolyn, so give it a try. What do you think?
Did you decide not to come because you are feeling sick?
That could work, but we still want to have tired in there as well. So how could we do it and keep that as well?
Hmm.
So I'm sorry, I was confused on that. So I said, did you decide not to come because you are tired or because you are feeling sick?
Oh, you got it.
Is
I
that-
think that it cut out. Sorry about that. Yes, you got it.
Oh, okay. I'm like, wait a minute.
No, you did say
Perfect.
it correctly. Yes, I think it did cut out. Did you decide not to come because you are tired or because you are feeling sick? That is exactly right. So the word
Mm.
because needs to be the repeated word, and then we have that same similar phrase in both. Great. Let's try number 5. She was disappointed by not only his clothes, but also his mannerisms. Oh, my chat's filling up. Excellent. You all are saying parallel. Well done. It is parallel. So we have the same structure after that correlating conjunction. We have his clothes, his mannerisms. So that would be parallel. Number 6, she wants neither the red one nor the yellow one. Okay, lots of parallel in the chat. All right, well done. So they both are showing, both sections are showing an adjective plus a noun. So we've got a red one, yellow one. So it is parallel.
Hmm.
Number 7, when I wake up, I like either walking the dog or to go for a jog. So this was that where we're contrasting. Okay, good. I'm seeing in the chat. Keep going. What do you think? All right, so not parallel. So we've heard from Carolyn, Ardreeves, Don Tressa. Is there anybody else that wants to take a shot at this one on how you would fix it?
Sure. When I wake up, I like either walking the dog or jogging.
Okay, that could work. When I wake up, I like to either walk the dog or go for a jog, but you kept it with the
That'll work.
ing. That would work as well, Troy. So well done. So sometimes there's
Yeah.
not always one answer, but they would show
Yeah.
that each section is correct. Well done. All right, I've got
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The sentence previous said neither nor, and this one says either or. Does or always have to be used?
They do go together. Either or, neither
Yeah.
nor do go together.
Yeah.
That is a very good observation. What makes this one not
Mhm.
parallel is that we have that infinitive to in there. So to do something, we need
Yeah.
to have them
To
match.
go.
Mhm.
Either to walk the dog. Yeah, to walk the dog
Okay.
would also work.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I was thinking like when I wake up, I like to walk the dog or go for a jog. I left the either out, so that's why I was asking.
And that could work as well. Mhm. So I did have a couple of like samples here. When I wake up, I like to either walk the dog or go for a jog. When I wake up, I like either walking the dog or going for a jog. So there are options. And I think that you guys are kind of picking up on that. Number 8, I would describe her as intelligent, caring, and thoughtful. So this is going to be one that almost seems like an exception.
Mm-hmm.
because we were doing so much with, all of everything ended in an S, or everything ends in an ing, or everything ends with an ed, and this one doesn't have that. But you all are correct. I can see in the chat, you're saying it's parallel. And so just because they have different suffixes, we've got an ENT, an ING, and an FUL, full, they're actually all adjectives. And so you could take each one by itself. I would describe her as intelligent, period. I would describe her as caring, period. I would describe her as thoughtful, period. So they all do actually make sense in this one. They're grammatically correct. Number 9, he suggested that we go for a meal, then we should see a film.
Doesn't sound right.
I know. Native English speakers, a lot of times we just kind of go, that's why we just kind of cringe or we wince, because it doesn't sound right. But today you're kind of starting to learn maybe why. Right, so I see a lot of not parallel. You are correct, it is not. All right, who wants to give it a try? I should back that up. Who wants to fix it for me?
He suggests that we go for a meal and then see a film.
Then see a film. Okay. Any other option? I'll show you what I got. He suggested that we go for a meal, then see a film. There you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Last one is actually for Dr. Marquette because he loves Italy. So I came up with this one. Italy is a place where you can eat delicious food and visit old churches. Do you think this is parallel or not parallel? All righty, this one is actually parallel. So we have our 2 verb phrases and they do match. Eat and visit are in the same tense. So eat delicious food, and we've got visit old churches. So they are both in parallel structure.
Right.
All right, so if we were to recap, and
Yeah.
if we can actually even look at our brand new GCU logo, they've got parallel lines in there. So I want you to like kind of make a note of that. So when you start to see our GCU logo, you can see that it even has parallelism in it. So to recap, to write sentences that have parallel structure, we would like you to use the same grammatical form for 2 or more similar ideas. Parallelism in writing creates a common level of importance between ideas, emphasizes similar ideas in a sentence, makes the sentence concise, and it does promote readability. And a way to fix this is to either repeat the preceding word or phrase before every idea or use it only before the first idea in the series. So generally speaking, that little tip will work for you. All right. What'd you learn about parallelism today, and how do you think you can maybe apply this to your DQs, to your essays, your dissertation? Is this something that you feel like maybe you've made errors on before and now you're kind of having that aha moment? I'd love to hear from you.
Matching tests is fun. Just go ahead.
And I was just going to say that it's something that I think just teaching writing and being a writer that I've just sort of taken for granted and not really paid close attention to.
Yes.
But since I've just started and I'm really paying attention to my writing, it's something that I'm trying to be really cognizant. I have caught myself making, and if you read it enough times, then you can make it, it can sound okay. So
Yes.
I like having this information as a formula for checking.
Well, and that's wonderful. And a lot of times when we're researching and we're synthesizing ideas from other sources, we do write these kind of longer sentences with this series of things. And generally speaking, we'll get the first couple correct, and then we blow it on that last one. And so I think that just by being aware of it, when we're writing out those sentences and we're, pulling from this author and from this author, and we're throwing in even the citations in there to make it, the credibility, kind of going, oh, that's right. I need to make sure that all of the sets of series are matching. What else do you want to throw out there as a conversation on this?
Be very careful when I edit my work. I tend to go very fast and jump over things because I'm used to scanning written information, and it's not an equation anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's important. We have to self-edit. And especially once you start getting, with your committee and they're sending it off, every single rubric for every section of that dissertation, the last one says that, everything is in APA format, it's grammatically correct, that kind of thing. And so you can get graded down on that if your writing just starts to sound wonky. And we take it for granted because, we've been reading everything. It makes sense to us. We type it out fast, but we don't really go back and edit ourselves. So I like that you mentioned the word edit.
I noticed, oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. I noticed Dr. Ames made mention of you may want someone else to read it through. You get a English editor to go through it and see if it makes sense, just for the final stuff, for the dissertation or major assignments, just to be safe.
I would concur with that. It can be expensive, because a lot of times you're paying somebody to do that, but I think that it's worth it. The other trick, although it's time consuming, is read it yourself and read it out loud. Because a lot of times when we end up hearing it, that's when we go, oh, there it is. It's just so obvious. But we've reread without reading out loud so many times that we skim over it and we're not cognizant of the errors. So getting somebody else to read it for you and pointing those things out or reading it out loud are great tips.
This is Varsha. For me, this was a new. I've never noticed about parallelism, and I see how I used to make mistakes in sentences.
Sure.
Like we think we are doing correct grammar, but sometimes it does not sound right.
Correct.
And I
You're
never knew how to correct this way.
awesome. I'm glad you know how now. And it's really not that hard to do.
Yeah.
It's not a hard fix. It's an easy
Yep.
fix. I'm a content expert for several learners, so I'm always reading that long 30-page lit review. But I come from an English teacher background, and so it's hard for me to disengage from that. And so that's where I put a lot of bubble comments, and I just say, these are actually easy fixes, but you do need to go in and fix it because form and formatting is going to find those things, and then they're going to kick it back, and you're so close at the end. So I think it's important to, fix on the front end if possible.
Just out of curiosity, is this something that you find as one of the common errors with
It
writing?
is, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to, pick this topic. Each month, the second Thursday of each month, I do teach a writing lesson. And so a lot of times they're born out of what I'm reading in my, as a content expert. I'm like, oh, I got to mark that one down. I keep seeing this in one, dissertation or two dissertations. And I'm like, okay, this is a common problem. Let's just teach a quick 30-minute lesson on it and help other learners. Mhm. So the answer, Carolyn, is yes.
Thank you.
All right, well, that does wrap it up. I like to make these, I call them micro lessons. And so want to be respectful of your time. Our next one will be on Thursday, March 14th, same time. I like to tell you to invite your classmates, have them come as well. And we do look forward to seeing you. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you as well.
Con mucho gusto para todos. There you go. Oh, time to leave.